Hare Krishna, welcome to our Sunday Bhagavatam class. Today we're beginning a new chapter, first canto, chapter 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, first canto, chapter 16, text 1. Sutu vacha tatak parikshit dhijavarya shikshaya mahim mahabhagavatak shashasaha yatha hi sutyam abhijata kovidat Samadhishan vipra mahadgunastatha. So, now we begin the story of Parīkṣit, because, as we know, the Pandavas have just renounced the world, and there is no one in the next generation because everyone died at Kurukshetra. So therefore, the throne, the crown, has to skip the next generation after Yudhishthira and go to the grandson. And so that's what's happening here. And so now we begin the story of Parīkṣit. So, Sutuvacha, Suta said, Tata, then, after the Pandavas have renounced, Parīkṣit, Dvijavarya Shikshaya Mahimaha Bhagavatak Shashasaha. Parīkṣit, Dvijavarya Shikshaya, with the instruction, with the teaching of the best of the twice born. Varya means the best, the excellent. So Shiksha, like Shikshamrita, the Shikshastika of Lord Chaitanya. So Shiksha means instruction. And so Shikshaya, by the instruction of the Dvijavaryas, the best of the twice born, Parīkṣit, who was a Mahabhagavata, he was a great devotee. He was a great devotee of Krishna. And Shashasa, he ruled Mahim, the earth, indeed, or in the past. Prabhupada translates it as in the past. So this verb, shashasa, which is actually the verbal root is shas, is the same verb from which we get the word shastra. Shastra means a book, a governing text, or a text which has authority to instruct us. That's the meaning of the word shastra, from the verb shas, to govern. Just so you get an idea, this verb, here are the meanings of that verb. So you get an idea of the range of meaning. It can mean to chastise or correct, to censure or punish. It can mean that, especially in the Rig Veda. To restrain, control, rule, govern, to administer the laws, to direct, order, command, enjoin. So Shastra has injunctions to teach, to instruct, or inform. So all those things are from the verb shas, from which you get Shastra. And here, Parīkṣit, it is said shashasaha. Shashasa Mahim. Mahim means the earth, obviously related to the word Maha, great. So it's like he ruled the great earth. That's sort of what it sounds like in Sanskrit. So Sutu Vacha, Tatak Parīkṣit Dvijavarya Shikshaya Mahim Maha Bhagavatak Shashasaha Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovidat Samadhishan Vipra Mahadgunastata. So just as he ruled as a great devotee Uh, just as at the time of his birth, Sutyam, Suti, his birth, and so at his birth, Sutyam, just as indeed at his birth, the Abhijata Kovidas. Kovida means the experts at something, and here those were expert at birth. And the word Abhijata, Jata means like born, so Abhijata means a high birth, a noble birth, or an excellent birth. So they were Abhijata Kovida because these experts would be called for important births. These people wouldn't necessarily be there every time one of millions of people, one person was born in a country, but the Abhijata Kovida, the experts who were there for important noble births. And Yatahi Sutyang Abhijata Kovida, just as the Abhijata Kovidas, Samadhishan had explained Vipra Mahadgunastata. Just as they had explained, he had great qualities. Parīkṣit had great qualities. He had great qualities just as had been foretold of him by the experts at noble birth at the time of his birth. So that's the first statement about Parīkṣit. Yeah, Prabhupada translates that actually. Sutta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaj Parīkṣit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the twice-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. So, sa uttarasya tanayam upayema iravati. So he, Parīkṣit, upayeme, he married the daughter of Uttara. Uttara, as you may remember, is the brother of Uttara. So Parīkṣit is actually the son of Abhimanyu and Uttara, who's the daughter of King Virat. So Parīkṣit married his cousin, which was very common back then, and even very common in Europe. So he married, his mother was Uttara, her brother was Uttara, and so he married Uttara's daughter, so he married his first cousin, Upayeme, and her name was Iravati. So Janame Jayadin Chaturas Tasyam Utpadayat Sutan, and he begot 4 sons in her, in Iravati, headed by Janame Jaya. Janame Jaya is the first. There were 4 sons that Parīkṣit begot in Iravati. He is the son of Uttara. She is the daughter of Uttara. So, Ajahara Ashwamedang Chin, Ajahara, he offered 3 horse sacrifices. Ajahara, which is very prestigious, it shows great power and wealth. Ajahara Ashwamedang Chin, Gangayam, he offered them. He arranged these offerings at the Ganges, Gangayam, Buri Dakshinan. And in these 3 sacrifices, there was abundant distribution of charity. So these great state sacrifices, I mean, the Brahmins and other twice-born people would have a little Agnihotra fire burning in their home, a domestic sacrifice, which was small and simple. And then there were these great state sacrifices that only a successful government could even afford to put on, because, as it said here, Bhuri Dakshinam, there was abundant rewards. Prabhupada translates it, Dakshina as rewards. Like, yeah, we say Guru Dakshina. So that was an important part of the national economy that a lot of people, including the Brahmins, including poor people and other people, dependent on these great state events. That was sort of the social security system or the social welfare system, among other things, these great sacrifices. So Parīkṣit did his duty well and gave abundant dakshina, charity, at these three horse sacrifices. And Sharad Bhatang Gurung Kritva, and he made Kripacharya, who was the son of Sharadvan. So because Kripacharya was the son of Sharadvan, therefore he's called Sharadbatam. This is also an act of reconciliation because Kripacharya, of course, fought on the wrong side at the Battle of Kurukshetra. And so still he was the adopted son of Shantanu, and therefore he was the stepbrother of Bhishma, and therefore he was the sort of the uncle of the Pandavas, and therefore he was a great uncle. So some of these people lived a long time. Great uncle of Parīkṣit. So at this point, Kurukshetra is over. They're trying to, whatever's the little that's left of their family, they're trying to put it back together. So Deva Jatrakshi Gochara. So at these sacrifices of Parīkṣit, they were such powerful sacrifices that the devas, the demigods, Akshi Gochara, became visible. Akshi means the eyes, and Gochara means within the range. So literally that the devas came within the eye range, visual range of human beings at those sacrifices because they were so powerful. So then, Nijagraha Ojasa Vida Kaling Digvijaye Kuchit. So once, Kuchit, that's sort of like once, yeah, I was going to say once upon a time. That's how Prabhupada translates it in the synonyms, once upon a time. Vida, that hero, Parīkṣit, Nijagraha, literally took down by his power. Nijagraha Ojasa, by his power, he took down Kali, personified Kali, Digvijaye, in a conquest of the directions. Digvijaye, it's when you establish your authority in all directions. Nripalinga Dharang Shudram, Kali was a Shudra wearing the symbols of a king. Nripalinga Dharang Shudram, Gnantango Mitunang Pada. And yet he was killing or striking literally a pair of, the word go in Sanskrit can mean cow, but can also mean a cow or a bull. It just means a pair of cattle, if you want to use that word. Go mitunang pada. He was striking a mituna, means twins or a pair, on the foot, on the leg. We'll talk about that because it seems to be an allegorical story or a symbolic story, and we'll talk about that later. So Prabhupada says, once when Maharaj Parīkṣit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra. Actually, it says here, Shudra, Prabhupada says lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and a bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. So, text 5, Shonaka Uvacha. Now, Shonaka, he's heard this much. He's heard the first 4 verses of this chapter, and he has a question. Shonaka Uvacha, Kasyahetur, for what reason? Kasyahetur, for what reason? Nijagraha Kaling Digvijaye Nripa. So this is typical in the Bhagavatam. It's very elegant. The person asking the question repeats a lot of the words of the person to whom he's addressing the question. So Sutid said that that hero took down with his strength. He took down Kali. Once he took down Kali during his conquering of the directions. And then the question comes back, for what reason did he take down Kali when he was conquering the directions? The king, Nirpa. Nur is a sort of an abbreviation in Sanskrit of Nara. It means a man or a person, human being. And Pa means sort of an abbreviation of Pala, like protecting, taking care of. And so Nirpa literally means the people protector. It sounds better in Sanskrit, Nirpa, which means a word for king. So Kasihetor ni jagraha, ni means sort of down, and graha, jagraha, you took down. So he took during his Digvijaya. So why? For what reason? Nrdeva Chinnadrik Shudra Ko So Gang Jak Padahanat. And so this king who is, or this Shudra, this little Shudra, Shudraka, he doesn't say Sudra, he says like this little Shudra, this insignificant Shudra, who Drik was wearing a chinna, the signs, the symbols, Nurdeva, of a king. So just as a word for a king is Nurpa, people protector, so also another word for king is Nurdeva, a god among the people, in other words, the king. And so he says Nurdeva Chinnadrik, wearing the symbols of a king. So there the word Chirna is just a synonym. Chinna is a synonym of linga. Nirpa linga dharam was the original statement, and then Shonaka just paraphrases that by saying Nrdeva Chinna, so basically saying the same thing, just repeating what Sutta said, just using some synonyms. That little Shudra Kosau Gang Jak Pradahanat, who is beating the cow on the leg, Pada Ahanat Gang, Tat Katyatang Mahavaga. Let that be told. Katyatam, it's the imperative passive. Kata means when you tell about things, like Krishna Kata, telling about Krishna. So here you have the passive imperative verb, Katyatam, let it be told. Let that be told, Mahavaga, oh greatly fortunate one. Yadi Krishna Katashayam, but he puts a condition on it. Let it be told, Yadi, if it leads us to Krishna Kata, if it's somehow connected, if it's somehow about Krishna Kata. If it's not about Krishna Kata, he's going to pass. Like, that's okay. I think I'll skip it. But if it is connected, which is a good way to translate that here, if it is connected to Krishna Kata, then let it be told. Literally what he says. So, atava asya padam bhoja makaranda liham satam kimanyayar asaralapayar ayusho jalasadvyayaha. So, atava, and so he's kind of explaining why he put that condition on it, because otherwise, asya padam bhoja makaranda liham, for those who are, it says here, licking. Actually, the English word lick is related to the Sanskrit word lich, which is kind of the H, lick. So liham, of those who are licking the honey, the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet, of those satam, of those saintly persons, kim anyayar, like kim here means sort of like what's the use of, like what's with other conversations which are asat. It's like saying, what is the use of? Which are asat, which are not spiritual. So for saintly persons who are licking the honey of the Lord's lotus feet, what is the use of other topics which are just sort of material babbling, kind of? The word here, alapa, asat alapa. Alapa is sort of communication. So, yeah, what is the use of material speaking? What is the use of material speaking for those who are always relishing the nectar of Krishna? because such a topic is Ayusho Jarasadvyayaha. It's simply Ayusho means of the Ayur, like Ayurveda. Ayur means duration of life. So Ayurveda means knowledge about how to increase the duration of life. So Ayusho means of one's duration of life, as Prabhupada translates it, of the duration of life, which is an asat vyaya. It's an unnecessary, sort of a mundane vyaya, using up. Vyaya means sort of like using up for nothing, for something mundane, our life. Vyaya, we often see that word vyaya as not vyaya, avyaya, which Prabhupada translates unperishing. So asat, mundane, it's a mundane using up of our life. So what is the use of it? In other words, I only want to hear about Krishna. So, Kshudrayu Shang Nrinam Anga, oh dear Sutta, for people, Nrinam, human beings who have a meager duration of life. We already have a Kshudrayur. We have a meager duration of life. Martyanam, we are mortal. Ritam, ichatam. So if we are desiring the truth, Iha upahuto bhagavan mrityu kshamitra karmani. So for the sake of people who are desiring the truth, but who are mortal and therefore have a short duration of life, here, or like here now, Bhagavan Mrityu, Lord Death is summoned. Or Lord Death, Prabhupada says, called for being present here, Iha. There was Yama Shamitra Karmani. Prabhupada saying, suppressing, let's see, the word Shamitra. So Shamitra is relating to the official who cuts up the sacrificial victim. So it's pretty graphic there. So it said that Lord Death is engaged in cutting up in the action of sort of, killing people. Shamitra, which is kind of a graphic word, it means that, the activity where you sort of slaughter the sacrificial animal. So that's the activity of Lord Death, kind of, bringing people to their death, like sacrificial animals. And so because you all want to hear the truth, and yet you are mortal, you have a short lifespan because it's now the age of Kali. Therefore, we are now calling for Lord Death to be present here so that no one will die. That was the idea. So that, because ordinarily our material life is just that we're being slaughtered by time, so therefore we summon the Lord of Death to this spiritual gathering. And then they, as Shonika says, the next verse, Nakastin Mriyate Tavid Yavadaste Hantaka. So as long as Antaka, literally the end maker, Yamaraj, as long as the end maker stays here with us, no one will die. Nakastin Mriyate. Etarartam, for that purpose, and Etarartam hi Bhagavan, for that purpose indeed, the Lord is called, is invoked, is summoned. Paramarshi by the greatest sages. Aho nirloke pieta. Aho is an exclamation. Oh, indeed, nirloke, in this human world, pieta hari lilamritam vajaha. Let that speech, which is the nectar of Hari Lila, of the Lord's pastimes, let that speech be drunk. Pieta, let it be drunk. That speech, which is the nectar of Hari Lila, indeed. So it's very beautiful. Shaunika, if you go through the Bhagavatam, you'll find a lot of the most beautiful verses are actually spoken by Shaunika. He's one of the great speakers of the Bhagavatam. He's the leader of the sages who are listening to Sutta. And of course, so he's the one that usually asks questions, and he speaks a lot of the most beautiful, powerful verses. So Shaunika is quite an impressive sage. So we've done 8 verses. I think you got your money's worth. And I will stop here for today. And let's see if there are any questions. My scrolling pastime. Let's see. Thank you for your comments. So far, no questions. How many years after the end of Kurukshetra? That's from Palaka. Perhaps about 25. Because after Kurukshetra, what happened immediately after Kurukshetra is that Yudhishthira became the emperor. And then he ruled for about another 25 years, and then he renounced the world, and then Parīkṣit took over. So Tulsi, so the same Uttara that drove Arjuna's chariot, his daughter married Parīkṣit. Yes, yeah, the same Uttara. The same Uttara that drove Arjuna's chariot, his daughter married Parīkṣit. So that's it. No other questions. So I definitely don't think I missed anything. So thank you very much. I hope you'll come next Sunday and have a great week. Hare Krishna.